hentai games.
Katawa Shoujo is a visual novel released by a group of people on 4chan's A after finding concept art by the Japanese doujin artist Reita. After many years of work, the visual novel was released freely to the public. And looking back on it years later, it is arguably one of the best introductions into the medium of visual novels. While the stories of Katawa Shoujo range from pretty good to decent, one route is often singled out by people as the worst one. However, people generally mistake intentionally cause frustration for bad writing, and it's worth examining why people feel that way. Katawa Shoujo begins after the main character suffers a heart attack and is transferred to a special school. This acts to initiate the story where the player character meets each of the main 5 girls and, as is typical of visual novels, gets to decide which route they wish to select. One of these is the route of the girl Shizune. She is mute, and her best friend, Misha, translates for her. This is the route that is often considered to be the weakest, specifically because not much happens in the story itself and many people felt frustrated by certain events that take place. Arguably, this is exactly what the route was written for and intended to accomplish, save for one general mistake which I will explain later. At the beginning of the route, after joining the school council with Shizune and Misa, a side route character, Lily, warns the player that everyone has left Shizune over time, and to be careful around her. As the player character continues to enjoy their time with Shizune and Misa, they develop a close bond, learn sign language to better communicate with Shizune, and play games. Eventually, Shizune and the player character even start to form a relationship, and are invited to meet Shizune's family. It is an enjoyable moment of exaggerated family banter, but late in the evening, Shizune invites you to her room, ties you up, and has sex with you. Now, imagine if the situation were reversed, where you tie her up and have sex with her and she's unable to call for help. It is not inaccurate to say that what Shizune did was commit rape for the sake of absolute control of the situation. Keep that in mind. Following this is a period of tense distance between the player character and Shizune, but the relationship nevertheless continues and grows. This culminates to a point where the player character properly and consensually has sex with Shizune. You get an actual intimate moment where Shizune opens up to you for the first time. She reveals that she once joined an art contest, not for the sake of drawing and being proud of her art, but to beat other people. She was proud of winning the first place and seeing others lose and cry. After having experienced the pleasure of seeing others suffer defeat, she threw her art in the garbage, without any regards to her own creation and honor. It is at this point that the thematic center of the route is laid bare. Shizune only cares to manipulate, control, and make people around her suffer, and then she discards them. This is further shown to be truth, as Misha reveals that she is depressed and contemplating suicide on the school rooftop. After being stopped, she reveals that she is a lesbian and joined the special school specifically to be with Shizune. But despite confessing, Misha never received any romantic affection and was kept close as a friend to translate sign language. And as the player character became romantically involved with Shizune, Misha felt that her life became unimportant and insufferable. She gave up everything to be with Shizune, and now she has become the third wheel. That night, she comes to your room and, without any attempt at subtlety, she asks for sex, despite being a lesbian. She has been so isolated and lonely that she craves any emotional attachment. It is at this point that the player is given 2 choices that lead to either the good end or the bad end. If you refuse sex, Misha snaps out of her desires, later forgives Shizune, and the gang is all happy together for no reason. And that's the happy ending, with nothing resolved or concluded. This ending is boring and sucks. It was likely added because, as with the other routes, it required a good ending. However, it does not thematically solve the tension between the characters or act as a satisfying conclusion. Alternatively, the bad ending does tie the entire story together. If you accept Misha's offer, The player character indulges in an act of loveless sex, out of disgust and alienation towards Shizune. The next day, they reveal to Shizune that they no longer care for her and will leave her be. The route concludes with Shizune by herself, alone, contemplating why everyone ultimately distances themselves from her. What people tend to forget is the fact that Shizune, as a character, was not meant to be liked. She is a manipulative cunt that rapes you, feigns being friends with others just to control them, and then discards people after they serve their usage, as she did with her art. She is despicable, but that alone does not mean that the route or character is badly written. The only major criticism regarding the route is the good ending not resolving anything. If the good ending is ignored and the bad ending is considered to be the true ending, the story itself loses nothing and is only made stronger. Lily telling the player character that people have left Shizune one by one is foreshadowing the meaning of the entire route and the narrative resolution of the bad ending. And it is only by understanding the context that Shizune was never meant to be liked from the start that people can appreciate the entire route. What the player is ultimately meant to realize is that certain people unconsciously desire power and seek to control as their sole reason for existing, and often, the only reasonable course of action is to distance oneself from these sorts of people. Shizune's route is unlike the others from Katawa Shoujo, as they focus on forming a positive relationship with the girls and getting to know them. However, being different should not be considered a flaw. Causing a reaction of frustration may be a part of the writer's intent that they sought to evoke in their art. And regardless of personal biases, it should be something that is recognized and appreciated from a perspective of understanding.
Or take Shizune, who has perhaps the most crippling disability of all. She's a complete bitch.